Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be changing the oil on this 2019 BMW S1000R. This procedure is going to apply to all BMW S1000 models, including the R and the RR and the XR across all years. So like pretty much every single S1000 model, this procedure is going to apply to. I'll have all the parts that I'm using in this video linked down below. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like, comment, do all those things. And after the video, I'm gonna cut the oil filter open and I'll spread out the oil filter material and we're gonna look at it together to look for any sort of metal or foreign debris or whatever, see what the oil filter has caught over the last 7,000 miles. So I'm gonna show you how to do an oil change and then we're gonna just see what it looks like. I don't know, follow along. But anyway, let's get to it. So underneath the bike here, right here is your drain plug. The drain plug is going to be a T50 Torx. So what we're gonna do is we'll put a drain pan under there, get a T50 Torx, crack our drain plug loose, and we'll just unthread the drain plug here and then dump the oil. So then looking at our drain plug, you can see we do have a little bit of metal debris on the drain plug. But to be honest, that's really nothing that serious. That's very normal for a drain plug to have a little buildup of like smooth debris, as long as there's no like large chunks on there. Now while that's kind of finishing up draining, we're gonna go ahead and loosen up our oil filter. The oil filter is just kind of tucked up here on the front of the engine. On some S1000 models, you may need to remove a little bit of fairings or whatever. But on the XR, you actually can just kind of snake your oil filter wrench up in here and get it undone just like that. So then I'll take our new oil filter out of the package. We'll just spread a little film of oil. It's not absolutely critical, but a little film of oil on here. And then we will spin it on by hand and then just snug it up with the oil filter wrench. So I kind of have to fish it up in here, get it lined up, and have it spin right on. And we'll just put that down by hand and just snug it up with that oil filter wrench that we were just using. And I'll have the oil filter wrench and oil filter that I'm using in this video linked below. Now that our oil has finished draining and it just kind of slowed down to a very slow drip, I guess, we can reinstall our drain plug with a new crush washer, and the magnet on the end of the drain plug has been kind of cleaned up, and we're just going to use that same T50 and just snug that up. So we can put our oil in. The fill is on the right side of the bike. On the clutch cover, take our fill plug off, and we can just use a funnel, and it's going to hold 4 quarts of oil. So then as you fill it up, you can see the sight class level rise, and you want to get the oil right at the very top of that sight class. And then we'll start the engine, run it up to operating temperature, and then once it hits operating temperature, we'll shut it down. We'll let it sit for 15 minutes, and the oil level should settle out right in the middle of that sight class. I'll then reinstall my oil fill cap. Just tighten that up finger tight. We'll start the bike up. We'll run it up all the way to operating temperature. When you start it up, you'll see the oil level fall in the sight glass. And then, like I mentioned, we'll shut it off and just watch that oil level settle out, and it should settle out right in the middle of that sight glass. Now we'll shut the bike off, and you can see the oil level rise up in that sight glass. And if you got your oil level right, it should stop within that red circle, but I like to run it kind of right in the middle. You can see it just settled out right there. So now, as promised, I'm going to cut this oil filter open and just see, I don't know, see what we're working with, you know, see if this oil filter caught a bunch of debris, see I don't know if there's anything that we should be concerned about inside of here. Boom! That tool works really slick for cutting open oil filters. And then we have our oil filter cartridge, and then our oil filter can. So this is all junk, nothing in there. It's pretty clean in there. So this is a screen for our pressure relief valve internal to our oil filter. So when the relief valve opens, this filters that oil, and it is free and clear of any debris. So the stuff you see on there, that's just oil sticking between the screens, but there's no real debris in there. So now what I'm doing is I'm just using a utility knife, and I'm working my way around the oil filter, and I'm going to be cutting out the filter element so I can string it out, and then I'm going to use like a blade and scrape it across it to scrape up any sort of, we'll be able to see some pretty fine particles. At a previous career, I was an engineer for Polaris, who owns Indian and all sorts of other motorcycle manufacturers. At the time, it was Indian, Victory, Slingshot, obviously snowmobiles and all that stuff, and razors. But this was a practice that we used after we took an engine off of a dyno to see if the oil filter, if there's any like brass debris, something that like obviously a magnet wouldn't catch, or like aluminum shavings. Obviously a magnet's not going to catch that, considering it's not magnetic. So now that I've cut around all this material, we can go ahead and just pull it all out like that. And that's going to leave us, this is just like the base cartridge, and you can see internal to here, there's a spring inside of there. That's our pressure relief valve. So this is just metal, this does zero filtration. This is our actual filter material. And I'm just going to take a razor blade, just hold it, and then drag this across the whole blade. And I can see a little bit of some stuff. And you can see like any sort of foreign debris is going to sit on this towel, and the oil will kind of soak through. But honestly, nothing too crazy that I've seen. See, I scraped that all dry. So now we have a little bit of oil there. So now this is the oil that I've scraped. And you can see there's tiny bit of like materials. You can see this red thing, that looks like some silicone or something from assembly. There's no major chunks. I mean, this is all just no major chunks. There's a little green thing that looks like something from assembly, maybe like a paint pen. But overall, I mean, there is a little bit of debris, but it's nothing concerning. So we're looking for like brass pieces, large pieces of like bearing material, but everything that I can see here is nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to be concerned of. So this is our filter material that's scraped clean of oil, and you can see there's a little bit of sparkle on there. Like again, that's just some like paint pen or something from assembly, but this is the side that the unfiltered stuff is coming in from. Yeah, oh, there's a little, like you can see a tiny sparkle every now and again, and that literally is probably just nothing to be seriously concerned about. That's silicone or a piece of little gray. I mean, you can see a little sparkle every now and again, and those are just tiny pieces of aluminum coming off of transmission pieces. I guess bearings are going to be steel, but you know, there's a lot of stuff happening inside this engine, and it's spinning at a pile of RPM, so this is absolutely nothing to be concerned of. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if this video helped you out, I got plenty of more coming just like it, so please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, and as always, have a safe ride.